Son, are you going to resign?
Absolutely not.
We've had thousands of Labour Party members phoning and faxing and sending in letters resigning from the Labour Party. Now, this is something that I think as the Labour leaders have got to recognise.
TB then claimed we had never had a proper discussion about it. I said that was balls. He said, "Do you ever think you'd be a better leader than me?" And I said no, because I lacked his patience. He said the MPs wouldn't mind because I was more in tune with them. Ho ho.
The turmoil in Labour's ranks gave a well-orchestrated Tory party its happiest 15 minutes in the Commons for 3 years.
Right honourable gentleman shouldn't be so sensitive about his difficulties. I just want to be tough on hypocrisy and tough on the causes of hypocrisy.
Tony looked desperate, and JP was grim-faced beside him. The press really smelled blood now and were convinced she would have to quit. I said no way, end of story. It was depressing though. It's okay to work round the clock and work your balls off for things and people you believe in. I didn't feel like that about Harriet or her decision.
Blair was exasperated by the party's reaction and the demands for Harman to be sacked.
Tony said, "If she goes, I honestly believe we become unelectable in the eyes of the public, because they would think we were stark staring mad to allow something like this to become a full-blown crisis. This has got to be seen as a test of our mettle, and it's a test that we have to pass."
From the very beginning, Blair's determination to reform the party has been a do-or-die crusade.
Tony said it was important people understand that if we lost a vote on Clause 4, he would have to quit as leader.
There was resentment of Blair's methods from within the party, not least from Claire Short, who'd be a thorn in his side for the next 10 years. Campbell was never a fan.
Claire called in her usual fount-of-all-wisdom way and said there was a malfunction around Tony and the Parliamentary Labour Party, and the unions were up in arms. She said she liked Tony, but trust was running out. She thought Gordon was tortured and Robin was a clever egomaniac. I wondered if she ever applied to herself the kind of rigorous analysis she'd subjected the others to.
The unions, too, were bitterly divided on whether to back Blair's plan to scrap Clause 4. Dyed-in-the-wool traditionalists regarded him as a traitor.
There are those who do feel abandoned, those unable to leap so nimbly from policy vehicle to vehicle, who try desperately, in fact, to keep sight of the taillights of the modernising juggernaut.
On the day the unions cast their vote on Clause 4, and moments before Blair made his final pitch to them, he heard that the giant Transport and General Workers Union was recommending opposition.
This produced the inevitable tirade. These people are criminally stupid. They simply do not care if we win or lose.
I did not come into this Labour Party to join a pressure group. I didn't become leader of this party to lead a protest movement. Power without principle is barren, but principle without power is futile. This is a party of government, or it is nothing, and I will lead it as a party of government.
It was a defining moment in the new Labour project.
The plan after the result was for TB to make a short, unscheduled speech, and he and I went to the toilet at the back to get away from all the fussing, and we went over a few lines. He was quite emotional. He'd always believed that doing this would be an important precondition for winning over the kind of people whose support we needed. He'd done really well, and I said so. And he says to me, "I think we're on our way."
For the new Clause 4, 65.23% against 34.77%.
An emotional Mr. Blair showed his relief.
Thank you very much indeed. And I think the country will say thank you too.
Just a few days later, the Blairs met Princess Diana at a private dinner. She told them she'd like to meet Campbell. He was waiting with the car and driver outside. He was completely dazzled by her.
TB is tapping at the window and says there's someone here who wants to meet you. And there she is, walking towards me. And she says, "There he is. Can I come over and say hello?" And then she's standing there, absolutely, spellbindingly, drop-dead gorgeous, in a way that the millions of photos didn't quite get. She said hello, held out her hand and said she was really pleased to meet me. So I mumbled something back about me being more pleased, and how I didn't expect when I left the house tonight that I'd end up standing in the middle of the road talking to her. It would make a very funny picture if there were any paparazzi in those trees, she said. There was something about her eyes that went beyond radiance. They locked onto you, were utterly mesmeric. She had perfect skin and a whole face lit up when she spoke, and there were moments when I had to fight to hear the words because I'm just lost in the beauty. "Anyway," she said, "I mustn't hold you back any longer." And there's me thinking I would happily be held back for a long time to come. I was milking it for all it was worth, and telling Tony he really shouldn't feel jealous. She probably quite liked him too.
Both Blair and Campbell were captivated by the beautiful princess.
I spent much of the day winding him up about her desire to meet me. Tony said her interest in me was about media manipulation. "No need to be jealous," I said.
Diana asked a friend to invite the Blairs and the Campbells to a dinner party, which was eventually arranged despite Blair's serious misgivings.
Fiona was resigned to me behaving like a teenager, and Tony was in a very jumpy mood on the way, really worried that it would get out. It was a very ordinary house in an ordinary street in Hackney, and I was confident nobody saw him arrive. She was already there, and looking more beautiful than ever. TB couldn't work out whether to flirt with her or treat her like he would a visiting dignitary. He wasn't comfortable. She was a curious mix of fun and insecurity. Her self-obsession came through too. She said to TB at one point, "You have to touch people in pictures. They can take a lot from you, but they can never take away the pictures." Cherie later asked if she liked Philip, and she said no. Fiona and Cherie felt she was tragic, laughing one moment, the face a picture of sadness later.
Diana told her friend she'd like to have another dinner with them, and she also wanted to help New Labour.
I said to Fiona, "What do you think she's after?" "You," she said.
Back in the early days, when Campbell has been in the job less than a year, he felt it had taken over his life in the way Fiona had warned it would.
The rowing with Fiona was getting both of us down, and I was trying to work out ways of cutting the workload. I was really depressed, the full-blown stomach empty but for a knot in the middle, and the mind feeling numb and unable to get out of first gear. I was at a loss how to improve things with Fiona. She said the job had totally taken over our lives. She said I didn't listen to anyone now. I just did what I thought I had to do.